Hi, I'm Henry Muehlhausen. I'm the broadcast mixer for The Price is Right, and here we are in the studio in Glendale, and let's take a little tour, shall we? Come on down. So we start the show, we call down 4 people. They're not mic'd at that point, but they have these microphones. They're all on a remote controlled lift, so they can raise and lower to everybody's different heights. These are cardioid Neumann microphones. You'll see they've also got a pair of speakers, which is a mix minus, meaning they'll hear our announcer, our host, and the other 3 bids.
Even though they're next to each other, I assume it gets pretty loud.
It gets pretty loud. Yeah, it's a very loud show. We encourage a lot of noise from the audience.
Come on down!
The person who wins will go up on stage, and if we have time, if it's a long enough prize copy, we'll run up on stage, throw a lav mic on them, and then they'll play the game. While they're playing the game, the A2 comes and runs down and gets the other 3 people, because we go straight into the second act, and we'd like to have lavs on them for when they come on stage, especially when they run off and go into their prizes, which they've just won, and say silly things. Everybody's rooting for everybody. You know, everybody at home wants that person to win. Everyone in the audience wants that person to win. The whole crew wants that person to win. So it's really pretty positive. We've got a pair of lav mics on either side of this frame. There's a few dispersed inside behind some of the seats. I keep those pretty low, but I get a little bit more of an attack on the clapping. And then we've got 8 4/16s up in the air just to capture the whole spread. So here we have Drew Carey's handheld microphone. It is a DPA microphone with a cardioid capsule on it, attached to this AD3 Shure Axient digital transmitter. We've been using these for a few years now, and originally they came as super long stems that would be something that you would use in a podium setting, but they had goosenecks on them, which doesn't work for this. You know, that looks pretty silly. So I took them apart, cut them down, got some tubing, got it painted, and put them all back together, and it's been holding up pretty well for a couple years now.
Okay, and then kind of going back in time here.
Back in time, here's some older versions of the microphone, which is the Neumann capsule and preamp here. And these are actually the same microphones as what's on the bid mics. So they've got the cardioid capsule here attached to this gooseneck and has a preamp down at the bottom of it. This piece right here was actually built by someone at TV City. So he actually built these pieces, and it has since retired many years ago, so we had to find a new solution. Bob's mic was, I believe it was a Sony ECM 55, and it was telescoping, so you'd see it at different lengths during different eras, depending.
Welcome to The Price is Right. I thank you, I thank you, I thank you.
It was a hardwired mic, and so it went off to the side over there, and there was a person off camera that was paging that cable to make sure that the cameras didn't run into it, contestants didn't trip over it or anything. So you see Bob pulling it along, but there's a guy in the back doing this with it too. So he's talking into it. He's giving it to the contestant back and forth. Those are the primary microphones. Everybody has lavs like we discussed earlier, but that's more of a backup. The lav with an audience of 170 people shouting and screaming might not sound as good as one that picks up more directly. Originally it was just the hardwired mic, no lavs, just these mics and nothing wireless. And then as that came along, we started putting lav mics on people. But when you have a lav mic, it picks up kind of everything. This is our primary microphone. It picks up a little easier than a lav microphone as far as an isolation standpoint. So the host is able to page, talk to the contestants that way. This just makes it a lot easier to hear and combat that loud screaming of a massive audience.
It comes from Hollywood, television's most exciting hour. It's The Price is Right.
What are the biggest, curveballs that you get?
Contestants.
Really?
They're wild.
Okay.
Drew will be standing over there when they give their bids, and of course these will be adjusted to their height, but a lot of times they'll say 12,000, 1,200, no, come on, go. Or they'll eat it, they'll get right on it. So that's the biggest challenge.
Okay, so tell me about up above.
Above, we've got 8 shotgun microphones dispersed, 2 over the side sections and 4 over the center section. And those are my primary audience microphones. We, of course, have to keep them very far away because we don't want to see them on camera, which is why a shotgun mic, which has a long throw, is ideal for that situation. On stage, we have a lot of different zones for fold-back coverage from front of house. So Drew generally will be playing somewhere over here while the models are gesturing and displaying the prize that's over there. So they need to be able to hear each other as well as our announcer and talk back and forth to one another sometimes. That's Drew's speaker. So he stands right here during the bidding and he's talking to the audience here. And he needs to be able to hear what they say because he repeats it back. And then it comes up on the display, but he's at an angle so he can't always see that it's a 5 instead of a 9 as the last. So we got to make sure that he hears and knows. We've got fold back speakers behind the doors so the models can hear George and Drew, our announcer and host. Just a pair above each one to just cover the zone. This is where most of the prizes are displayed and the models need to be able to react to our announcer and our host. And we'll go in with a loom. Generally there'll be like some lighting or electronics, some kind of power tied to the loom. So all of that happens right in here with this panel that covers it. So that's where we get, wheel gets plugged in, speaker feed, couple game mics, all kinds of goodies back here, pulleys for the doors. We've got a bunch of different RIO, so we're picking up and feeding from this area.
What's the makeup of the audio crew, everything that leads to you and beyond?
Sure, we've got myself with the broadcast mixer, we've got a front of house mixer, we have an A2, which is the person on the floor, putting mics on people, micing up Drew, adjusting these pop-up microphones. We have a PL comms guy who will deal with all of the belt packs and headsets. And we have an audio engineer who is our support guy. Anytime I press the wrong button, I can't figure out what I'm doing on the console, he comes in and turns the volume back up for me or helps build stuff. A music playback operator who's in the booth with me, she's playing all the music. And then we have our music supervisor who's the one that schedules all the music. He's the one that builds the show from a music perspective.
Does this go into any sort of post, or
Yeah.
do you? Okay.
Yeah, it's completely posted.
Cool. So you're getting it as close as you possibly can.
Yes, absolutely. Ideally, what I present as the line cut is as close to what they put out as possible. But I'll miss some things, or we'll get someone that's a little more dynamic than we expected. But we plan for that. But yeah, everything's ISO recorded, sub mixes, all sorts of things. So there are a lot of tools available. These are the showcase podiums, which is the final act of the show, and the 2 winningest contestants will compete for the final showcases.
And say hi to my good friend George Gray.
Morning, Drew. Good morning, Matt Well. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Mama Man.
George Gray is our announcer. He's the one that says, "Come on down," and it's a new car. Most of the time he's here at this podium on this Super 55. He wears an in-ear, which has the program mix as well as the booth comms, so he can hear the director and the AD and myself. If it's the director and the AD, they're cueing him. If it's me, I'm trying to make him laugh, talking trash. We'll go back to A2 world. So we're pretty crammed in here, but it's a lot of stuff. So this device raises and lowers those 4 pop-up microphones, and there's only one that exists. And then over here is our RF rack. Here's all the microphones wirelessly connected here, combined via the antenna combiner and sent into the splitter. So the splitter takes all of our sound sources and separates them to my inputs here and the front house outputs down here. So I'll send outputs to headsets, IFBs, for like our models all wear an IFB, so they hear George and Drew, our host and announcer, and they'll also hear Director Q. And also me if I want to try and make them laugh. So this is where the electronics department is, and everything comes and goes from them. Anytime that something is revealed, that there's a light on a game, when someone wins their one bid and their screen flashes, that's also cueing a sound effect. So that all comes from right here, and it's just a proprietary program where they build it for each game. Click flash, and that flashes everything. Basically, they click go, and it triggers the sound effect, as well as any kind of lighting cue or any kind of change. So we are in the broadcast mix booth here. Here we have a Calrec Artemis 64-channel console, but it's got a lot more capability. There's layers upon layers upon layers. We're not using all of them, but we're using quite a bit. A lot of ins and outs on this show. I'm using basically all 64 channels on the top. I keep the most important things that I'm going to be mixing with towards the middle. And everything that else that can be set and forget is a little further out on the sides. Over here, we have those 16 audience reaction microphones. Okay. Here are the 8 416s in the air, the shotguns. These are all the lavs that are in the seats and on the one bid row. Those all get submixed down into a stereo fader here. Continuing on, we have our 9 contestant microphones. Sometimes they come down in pairs, sometimes they come down as a family. So they'll be either, sometimes we do 2 to 5 people on lavs, but 90% of the show is just one contestant. So that warrants just the 9 microphones. Continuing down, we have some guest mics. We have an RF microphone that we will plant on games. We have a game that's a golf game that we put a microphone in the hole. And so instead of hardwiring that to a panel, we put a lav mic on it, and that's that right there. This section I'll mix around and do different things. So here's another layer. We had drums the other day, and so those are the drums with the submix of the band. So this is kind of my, it's very easy to move channels around on this desk. So if there's something that is special for the day, I'll put it on this bank here. Then we have our 3 model microphones. So we generally have 2 models, and we have a 3rd model mic, which is a headset mic for our models, our male models when they're shirtless. Sometimes our announcer goes and he'll ride a bike or be on a treadmill or something where he can't use his hands. So sometimes we'll put that headset mic on it. Here's the downstage, upstage microphones for the showcase. Moving on, we have the 4 bid mics. And then we get into the real stuff, the host and the announcer and the contestants. And I mixed with these primarily, so I'll leave these set here and mix with their groups in between the host and the contestant, as well as the announcer.
1001, Drew!
Host is wearing a lav, which we use here and there, and it's always going to tape for post. X is playback from tape if we want to play back something for a pickup, if we had a bad camera shot or a model wasn't there or whatever. Sometimes a prize will fall over, something like that. So we'll play back what we've recorded. Either they'll use the audio of what we've done to pick up a video take, or vice versa. This is the mix of the audience mics, and that's got an insert on it to do some processing. And then that goes into a new channel, which is the pedal return, which is pretty cool. And that's down here. So down here we have an audience volume pedal, and it just allows me to have a third hand, basically. Just like driving a car, I'm riding this all day with the audience. I can set my primary level, my main level here, and then this is 0 to all the way open. And I kind of almost don't think about it. It just kind of feels natural.
Okay, so when I explained this last time at Saturday Night Live, a bunch of people asked if audio passes through that.
Yeah. Yes,
so that's an actual audio pass.
It is a volume pedal, yes. Right here is your left and right, in and out. That's basically puts another path in the signal, inserts another audio path in the signal, and routes it down to here, and I'm adjusting. And it brings back in on the channel here.
Mystery solved.
Yep. So basically all of this side of the console is microphones for the most part. These are some more microphones, but they're on games. These are basically sound effects and music.
When you say sound effects, that's coming from upstairs next to front of house.
Yeah.
From the game board operator.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
I mean, I'm looking at this. So what's
yeah.
happening here?
That's just me having fun.
Okay.
So I have all sorts of silly things here. You know, occasionally I'll have a sound effect cue to play, and if it's just a scripted sound effect, like in a showcase, she's in music mode. Sound effects department, electronics department, is in that mode. So it's just easier for me to play it. So I'll hit it and we have a school's out thing coming up. So just a school bell. But we also have silly things like the contestants are the best part of this show, and we have some really funny ones.
Oh, 77! I love pancakes. My best friend Brian, who should be taping the show right now.
So I record locally, and if something funny happens, we make a note, and then I pop it into this. So that's just for fun, mostly. But it does serve a purpose on the rare occasion where I need to cue up a sound effect. So I multi-track everything here. We have two separate systems. So I use Waves for processing, clean up stuff, extra EQ, dynamic EQ, stuff that the board doesn't have. That's on a Mac Mini. And then here on this Mac Studio, which is a pretty new system for me, are these two screens, which is Pro Tools.
So Ed, when you do that,
and then I have Ableton, which is what I'm using here with the launch pad to play back the funny sound effects.
Yeah.
And then just like the wireless systems manager for our microphones, the Sennheiser, and then for our Shure mics. These are comms pedals. So this one is a point-to-point directly to the announcer, to George, in his ears. We've got everybody here. So we've got a dedicated audio channel. I can talk to my front of house mixer, Brian, sound effects, various other people that have various jobs. But I'm always listening to the director and the AD.
Giddy up, team.
5, 4, 3, 2.
I reckon we should be up on 5 music now.
So this is our audio comm. So it's the same thing as if I were to hit this button here. It's that channel. So I have three ways to talk to the audio department, and it's helpful, you know, because if I'm mixing right in the middle of something, I've always got my foot here and I can always talk. So in the middle of an act, if something happens or if I need to communicate, that's the way I generally do it.
Joe Drew was talking a little bit right there.
George Gray. 269. Yes, you got it.
When someone gets $1 on the wheel, or we give a big prize away, I hit this, which cues the party lights, and we all hoot and holler.
Purely for your own enjoyment.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, we're adding to that joy, that energy, you know. And sometimes if we're feeling down, we just turn it on and let it go for a while. So some of these games have microphones on them, like Plinko to get the plink, and Let 'Em Roll has a microphone for the ramp. And we also place a couple of them on like vocal mics. So in case they don't have a lav when they get up, we can still capture them while they're playing the game. This one is pushover. So they push the blocks, they fall into the box. This is on the turntable, and it's got a little microphone in there, right there.
Oh, wow.
That's now been completely painted in.
How cool.
That's been there for decades. Here's the wheel and Plinko.
Wow.
We can look on the back here and see when the earliest signature is. It's kind of the history. Here's a cool one right here. Here's the back of Plinko. You've got somebody from 1982. You see, we've got 2013, 2012. So this one's been around for a minute.
Effects, built 1982. Wow.
But yeah, we've got a couple of lav mics just drilled through a hole wide to a cable, and that's where we get our plink.
$1,000 again.
Now, is there a mic on the dip, 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 dip?
So you see these little silver strips of tape? It used to be a light sensor, and it was just simply a on-off MIDI note.
So it is not happening there.
Right. That is not triggering the beep.
Okay. But it was this light sensor here.
Basically, though, it's essentially sending a MIDI signal on-off, to the electronics department, and they generate the tone inside their computer and send it to me.
Okay.
Well, I started I forget how many years, but I was A2 on this show first. And then started filling in for the mixer, then took over. So I used to have to test this every single morning. So I'd get pretty good.
Can I do it?
Yep.
Okay. Because I
All right.
got to go hard with this.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get in trouble? Okay.
Pretty heavy, right?
heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, I would kill on that. But now I want to know where it lands.
You get 95?
I would have won
with
that.
a bendy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing.